Good afternoon, Chairman, Vice Chairman. My name is David Gray. I live at 13102 Kumar Court in Woodbridge, Virginia. I run a business. St. Dave's Dogs. We're a local business. We're fully licensed, bonded, insured, and we're a food truck in Prince William County. We're here today to try to change Prince William County's ridiculous codes that are preventing food trucks like mine from operating in Prince William. It takes trucks like mine an hour to an hour and a half to set up every day to run for business, and an hour and a half to close down every night when we close. This is impossible with this county's code requiring us to relocate every 90 minutes. I am not a roach coach who sells pre-packaged, pre-made food. I sell fresh made-to-order food that I prepare daily for my customers that come back to Dave's Dogs for that reason. I buy my food for Dave's Dogs from Prince William County businesses. I buy my propane for Dave's Dogs from Prince William County businesses. I maintain my truck and trailer for Dave's Dogs with parts and repairs from local Prince William County businesses. I donate all my used vegetable oil to local residents who use it for biofuel research. I am hoping the county would reconsider. Why is the county that I live in run my business in and support other businesses in trying to prevent me from operating in Prince William County? Is there a reason that Prince William County is trying to send my tax money to another county? Approximately $2,500 alone this year. It's time for a change. It's time for the Prince William County to start supporting local small business like mine and change the outdated rules and regulations that are sending local Prince William County owned businesses to other counties for those counties to reap the benefits of our tax payments. I am hoping the county will reconsider this ancient and ridiculous code and change the 90-minute to at least a full 8 hours a day for business such as Dave's Dogs to be able to do what they do best, provide fresh food made to order for the people of Prince William County. I ask that you please expedite an amendment so I can get back to doing the job I love, also so I can continue to feed my family. Thank you. Have a good day.
Hello, I am Karen Gray Edwards. I am Dave's sister, and until Thursday, I ate for free. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the business that the Prince William County policy requiring food trucks and trailers to move every 90 minutes is moving out of this county. He opened in June 2014, and from day one, he has been committed to keeping his business in the county he loves and in where he has been a long-term resident and homeowner. He has the proper licenses. He is bonded and insured. He passes the county's health inspections with flying colors. He donates 100% of his tips to an initiative with the Prince William County Shelter to pay for adoption fees and spay and neuter costs for hard-to-adopt dogs and cats at the shelter. To date, in less than 8 months, he has contributed $5,000 to this initiative and has helped find new homes for nearly 50 shelter dogs and cats, most senior and special needs. In the winter, Dave works with the local church to collect donations for their propane fund for the county's homeless residents. He gives discounts to members of local fire, rescue, and law enforcement, as well as active duty military and veterans. This is a small business that is committed to this community, and yet the very county that Dave has fought so hard to support is forcing him out of business or into a model of business that is unsafe and detrimental to food quality and to financial survival. In effect, this regulation means that decent, high-quality food trucks will be unable to stay in this county. At the same time, it encourages the kind of transient food trucks that move around, avoiding inspection, taxes, and licensing. It's time for the county to realize and support the contributions of all small businesses, even those in a 7 by 10-foot food trailer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jackie Pitts. I am the owner of the Frosted Muffin Cupcake Truck here in Prince William County, as well as the director of an organization by the name of Virginia Streets. We work to produce food truck events, as well as have been working with the county, the DMV Food Truck Association, the local chamber of commerce, as well as some other local organizations to champion new food truck laws here in Prince William County. We want to just express our gratitude for the county working with us up to this point. We support Dave in his issue. We want to make sure that any new laws that come into place here in Prince William County are favorable for the food truck industry, which is really a burgeoning industry. It's burgeoning here in Prince William County, but we want to make sure that it's a good food truck friendly event, a food truck friendly environment, and we want to let you guys know that we are very proud to be working with Prince William County, and we look forward to working with you guys on creating a wonderful food truck environment here in Prince William. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. My name is Shea Del Tabasola. I'm the Executive Director of the DMV Food Truck Association, and I wanted to join the chorus of voices today asking you to examine and bring into the 21st century our county's vending laws. Street vending is part of the fabric of the American economy, and it has always been a way for folks with not a lot of means to carve a way for social and economic upward mobility, and it is one of the reasons why I'm such a strong and passionate advocate for it. Want to join and ask for revisiting the current 90-minute limit, and we believe that it's something that can be done administratively, not necessarily through a legislative process. But yes, we do want to work in partnership with you to do what we need to do legislatively to bring our laws up to date. We want everyone to know Prince William County is open for business. We currently represent more than 100 different food trucks in 7 jurisdictions, and we've been very successful at bringing laws into the 21st century and making communities good for food trucks, small businesses, and mobile entrepreneurship. And thank you so much, and happy holidays.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Supervisors, and Ms. Picor and Ms. Robo. My name is Candy Mitchell. I live at 12641 Tide View Court in Bristol, Virginia. I'm here today to support Dave's Dogs and also my own business. I'm a food truck owner in Prince William County. My business is Shenandoah Express, Juice and Java. And I wanted to say that in the process of going through the county code and obtaining my certifications, my licenses, my inspections, I found that it was very difficult to ascertain what rules I needed to follow in order to avoid being ticketed, towed, or told that I was violating a zoning restriction. And nowhere in the code did I ever see a 90-minute restriction. I think that it's extremely unfair for food truck owners to go through the process of certifying within the county, to pay the taxes, to pay the fees, and when they seek guidance, not be given the correct information from the start. We put a lot of money and time into this business. It's our lives. And for a particular section of the code that may be interpreted from a document 10 years ago to come up and have such a massive impact on a small business owner, I think it's really unfair. In the neighboring city of Dumfries, they have an excellent model, a very new model that supports food truck owners. And I encourage the board and the county to review that model and possibly adopt it in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. That will close citizens' time. Mr. Noy, did you want to?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to save this for supervisor's time, but there's a lot of folks here who reached out to the board this weekend through email or social media about the issue with Dave's Dogs, and I figure since they're here, this would be a good time to just bring it up. I know I've talked a little bit, I think some other board members have, Mr. Chairman, with the planning director and some other folks on county staff about this. I think one of the challenges we're dealing with is that I think there's been a lot of talk about how the zoning ordinance affects this, and I don't know if Mr. Price is here and he can tell me if I'm wrong, or Mrs. Walsh, that it's that we don't actually regulate food trucks and the like under our zoning ordinance, that they're regulated by the police under the peddler's ordinance, the peddler's license, but then that, and again, as I'm told, the rules for a peddler's license say you must be in compliance with the zoning ordinance, but the zoning ordinance is a little silent on this. So what I'd like to do, Mr. Chairman, if the board agrees, is maybe give direction to staff to do two things. First of all is, to the extent that what created this concern for Dave, I don't even know Dave's last name, he said it, and I didn't. Gray. Mr. Gray's, I think, brought this to Mr. Gray's attention was this specific issue. I don't think it's wise for the board to try to from the dais deal with a specific situation. I think we let the planning staff deal with that. But what I'd like to direct first is we work with Mr. Gray and see if we can find a way to get him back in business, on an interim basis until we can figure out what a long-term solution is. Obviously, whatever that is would have to be in compliance with state law and other regulations, some of which we don't control. But also like maybe to ask the zoning office to come back to us with a recommendation of how we might go about updating the zoning ordinance so that we actually have a zoning ordinance. Because I think that last lady said it very well. It's a little confusing because we use the zoning office to determine how we're going to implement this, but the zoning office doesn't actually have a zoning ordinance that says do A, B, and C and don't do D, E, and F. So again, Mr. Chairman, if the board agrees, I think it would be good if we can start taking some action on this and start moving in a direction. Because I do think these food trucks are something that people enjoy patronizing. I think people like being able to shop. Obviously, whatever we do has to respect private property rights and such as part of that. But I think we can find a solution here.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Nelly. Yeah.
I certainly support what Mr. Noy wants to do. I was wondering, though, if Ms. Walsh could, at least for the benefit of the public, give a little explanation, because we heard in the public testimony about the so-called 90-minute rule and some other things, and I think Mr. Noy attempted to put some explanation there, but I'm hoping maybe you can clarify that both for the folks that came here to speak to it, but also, and we got several emails, and I'm sure there are people that want to have a better understanding of this. So we can understand what's going on now. I think the board wants to solve the problem, but I think we need some clarification as to how we got to this point. That would be helpful for the public, I think.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Susan Walsh with the Office of Executive Management. Actually, what happened, the zoning ordinance doesn't regulate food trucks. It doesn't mention food trucks. So really what happened was the zoning office, as a way to allow food trucks, they came up with an interpretation that said the zoning ordinance would not apply if they were not in one location for more than 90 minutes. So we basically wouldn't apply the zoning ordinance because we don't see it as a stationary use. And so that was an interpretation that Nick Evers did some time ago. So at this point, but we do have other permits for peddlers. There's a peddler's license that's required. I think there's a license from the health department. There's a license from, or a sign off from finance. So, but we've kind of struggled with it because it's a use that really isn't addressed by the zoning ordinance. And at this point, based on what we're hearing in terms of the nature of the use, that it's there, much longer than 90 minutes, I really think the zoning ordinance would need to be amended, and possibly other county codes as well. So if the board wants to proceed in that direction, I would recommend that you would initiate an amendment of the zoning ordinance and other county codes as necessary to address it. And then we would spend a little bit of time doing outreach with the business community and with the community. We take it through our own, the review committee that the board has set up to get other input, just to make sure we're not missing anything. And we would look at other jurisdictions, too, to see what they're doing.
Mr. Chairman. Excuse me. So in this particular situation, time is of the essence, because it appears that they are not operating their food trucks today because of this. We have the holidays coming up. This board doesn't meet again until mid-January. I'm just wondering whether or not staff has the administrative authority, realizing there's compliance with other areas of the law, whether or not you have administrative authority to, on an interim basis, waive this 90-minute rule so that they can continue to remain in operation while we work out the longer-term changes to the ordinances.
I believe we do have examples in the past where when the board would initiate an amendment to a county code, we would basically put a stay on enforcement while that was pending and being processed. So we would say, okay, during the duration of this amendment process, we're not going to engage in any enforcement. But it does mean that food trucks would be free to be there longer than this 90-minute period, and then I think we have to figure out on the staff side, what is a reasonable period of time. I mean, if it's not 90 minutes, is it 4 hours? Is it 8 hours? And so, but we would work through that. So if the board, I think the county executive had it.
Well, I just want to say, I would point out that Ms. Walsh said that we've done a stay in enforcement when the board has taken action to initiate a zoning text amendment. I would imagine no one is ready today to do that, but I was wondering if, and I guess I'd look at the county attorney, can the board direct county staff to put a stay on enforcement? So at least we have some direction from the board, because otherwise I don't know if we have administrative authority not to enforce the board's policy. So.
Mr. Chairman, I'd ask for a few minutes to look into this and get back with you. This is the first that my office has been hearing of this, and I apologize for that. We'll look into that during the board meeting and then get back with you.
Okay. Mr. Noe?
I think just because I had a citizen call me about who saw the activity on Facebook and call me about this. Obviously, I think the board agrees. Anything we do, we need to respect. I think it was the City of Falls Church when they dealt with this issue a few years ago, struggled with the question of where can they go, and obviously there's personal property rights. You can't park in my driveway and operate a food truck without my permission, and there's 1,000 variations. And VDOT has their own rules. The police have concerns. They have to, we have to comply with state law. We obviously can only work within the things that we as a local government can control, as opposed to the private sector or the state.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, that's a really important point, that this assumes there's a property owner that has approved this. So if you're in the VDOT right-of-way doing this, that would be a problem, because VDOT would not allow it. So the whole discussion here, in my mind, is based on the assumption that a property owner has permitted this.
And Mr. Chairman, and of course, other rules apply that can't be stayed. For example, you can't set up in a fire lane, or you can't, impede VDOT traffic or things like that, so.
Okay.
So we'll get back to you
Okay.
before the end of the meeting.
All right, sounds good. Susan, Mr. Walsh, would you like to come forward, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To follow up on the earlier discussion, I talked to the zoning administrator, and one suggestion we have is the zoning administrator, she would be willing to basically rescind the earlier zoning determination, which put the 90-minute limit in place. Beyond that, we would have called that a more permanent use and made it subject to the zoning ordinance. So she would rescind that, which takes away the 90-minute. But I do want to make sure the board understands that that 90-minute didn't just apply to food trucks. It applied to all types of itinerant vendors. So that would be rescinded for a period of time while the amendment would be initiated, and the staff would have a chance to work through that and bring it to the Planning Commission, bring it back to the board. Now, an itinerant vendor would still be subject to Chapter 18 of the code, which means you have to get a peddler's license, and as part of that process, you also have to show that you have a business license, and that if applicable, if you're selling food, that you need to either have health department approval or approval by the Department of Agriculture, depending on what you're selling. So there would still be a process that an itinerant vendor would have to go through, but the zoning ordinance would not come into play because the zoning administrator would rescind it for the period of time that we worked on that amendment that we would bring back to the board. So that's one suggestion that she would be willing to do.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Noe?
And I think we want to be clear, because I've actually gotten some emails since we were discussing this earlier. I want to be clear. You're not saying that Mr. Gray does not have health department, business license, et cetera. They have those. No, I'm helping you here, folks. You don't have to wave like that. I got you. They have those things. This is not about Dave's Dogs. This is about the policy in general. And what we don't want to send the message is that by doing this, everything is waived, and we've just opened the floodgates for anybody with a tank of gas and a George Foreman grill to start selling food out of the back of their truck.
Right. I just want to make clear that the zoning administrator can't pick and choose. When she rescinds this, she rescinds it for all itinerant vendors, but they are still subject to the peddler, to the requirements in Chapter 18 of the code that apply to itinerant vendors. And I didn't check to see. They're shaking their head yes, so I'm assuming they have all those approvals. But I just want to make the board. I just want to make it clear that this is a broader discussion than just food trucks, because we have other types of itinerant vendors as well.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Presby?
I may have an issue with that on Route 1. We have peddlers peddling flowers, oriental rugs, you name it, they're out there selling it. And what you're suggesting to me is that we're not just talking about food, we're talking about all peddling.
And that's because it's a broader category, and the zoning administrator can't pick and choose a type of itinerant vendor. Now, if the board decides by policy that gets adopted into either Chapter 18 or the zoning ordinance or both, that they want to have a different set of provisions for food trucks, they can do that, but the zoning administrator can't pick and choose as a matter of interpretation at this point.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Jenkins?
I understand what you've reported to us, but mixed in with that is a requirement to do something, I guess, about the 18-wheelers that are parked in the RPC as well. Now, this is a vending operation that you're talking about, but they are bringing 18-wheelers into the Kmart parking lot down in Ashdale, and they're beginning to look like a parking lot for sale, you know, to the highest bidder coming in there. And I'm just wondering if you're going to address the zoning ordinance, and that's really what we're looking at here, and you're going to address this issue with the food vendors, why aren't we also including the issue with 18-wheelers? And I do know that the Department of Public Works and the police department have requests now to do something about the issue through the legislative process. So can we at least also look at everything that's involved in that zoning ordinance instead of just piecemeal?
So on that one, I think we need to look at exactly where and how we regulate 18-wheelers parked there. These provisions are pretty specific to vendors who are selling things, but we can certainly follow up on that as well and find out.
Let me tell you how specific it is. The zoning ordinance says in it specifically, thou shalt not on the 18-wheeler. You can't park an 18-wheeler in an RPC, and there are 4 or 5 RPCs in the county.
So we would need to follow up with that one with property code and enforce the provisions in place.
Yeah.
We'll do that, absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, in the interest of moving forward on the this individual's business, if I understand it correctly, withdrawing this is a temporary solution to a longer-term rezoning or action recommendation by this board.
Right, we would suggest that at this point it be for the duration of that amendment.
And how long do you think that would be, given public notice requirements, et cetera?
So at a minimum, it's going to take us 3 months because of public notice requirements, and because we would want to do some outreach and look at other jurisdictions, I'm thinking it's going to be more like 5 months.
So if I were to support this today, I'm supporting peddlers to pull over on the side of the road on Route 1. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, actually, through the process where peddlers' licenses are issued, we also ensure that they abide by all local and state traffic regulations. So, no, you can't just pull off on the side of Route 1 and start selling something.
And Mr. Chairman, and you'd have to get permission if you wanted to go to a CVS and park a food truck in their parking lot, you'd have to get permission from the CVS. So, if they just pulled over on the side of Route 1, we would still enforce those.
My problem in Woodbridge is there is an absentee landlord on Route 1 for 8 miles, and it's called the Virginia Department of Transportation. It's not CVS, it's not Wegmans.
But if they're in the right
I just, we move forward with caution.
And Supervisor Princeby, they're not permitted to just pull over in the VDOT right away and sell. So that's a matter of enforcement.
Yeah, and we're not getting it now, was the point I made last week. Okay. So,
and Mr. Chairman, we can reach out to VDOT too, and if they're the owner of the property or we're the owner of the property because we're building the road, we certainly would not give permission for that to happen. We'll do the best we can.
Okay, further discussion? Do we need to?
No, just a direct, do you need a vote, Susan? Or?
Well, Mr. Chairman, the next step would be for us to bring back an amendment to initiate. So we would do that in January, but based on this discussion today, the zoning administrator would rescind that previous determination. And that would mean that in this case, assuming that an itinerant vendor had all other required approvals, it would not be a zoning issue.
Can we do a directive also on the 18-wheeler issue?
Yeah. Sure. That's up to the board. Sure.
And just so I understand, what does that do for this gentleman here today?
This gentleman,
he can go ahead and
assuming Dave's Dogs has meets all other requirements under Chapter 18 of the code, which relates to itinerant vendors, then he could continue to operate, because the zoning administrator would be rescinding that determination that said that basically said that if they were there for more than 90 minutes, they're subject to all requirements of the zoning ordinance, like any permanent use. So that was the determination that was made by a previous zoning administrator. So by rescinding that and recognizing that this amendment is going forward, we wouldn't try to apply the zoning ordinance in that case, because that's what's really causing the issue here.
And Mr. Chairman, and obviously has permission from the property owner, and of course can't impede traffic or be in fire lanes or anything like that. But otherwise, it means that if Dave's Dogs, and I like saying that, if Dave's Dogs meets all those requirements, they can reopen.
All right, you need nothing else from us at this point?
Not today.
Okay, all right, thank you.